Nigerian public total debt rose to 149.39 trillion naira as of March 31st, 2025, marking a year-on-year increase of 27.72 trillion naira, that is 22.8% when compared to 121.67 trillion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2024. This is according to the latest data from the Debt Management Office for the first quarter of 2025. The data also indicates a quarter-on-quarter increase of 4.72 trillion naira, that is 3.0% from 144.67 trillion naira as of December 31st, 2024. This consistent upward trajectory in Nigerian debt stock reflects both fresh borrowing and the impact of depreciating exchange rate on external debt obligations. Welcome to Business Point, where we extract the Nigerian economy and the government policies. I am Kike Lomo Okeri. Today we will be looking at the Nigerian debt, the implication of external borrowing on the Nigerian economy. And to do justice to that topic via Zoom is Professor Ken Ife, a development economist and president, Institute of Professional Economists and Policies Management. Let's take a quick short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Business Point on Global Television. With me via Zoom is Professor Ken Ife, a development economist and president, Institute of Professional Economists and Policy Management. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Here we're going to talk about the Nigerian debt, the implication on Nigerian borrowing, the external borrowing. With Nigeria external debt now at $45.9 billion, largely owed to multilateral lenders like World Bank and IMF, how sustainable is our current debt profile, especially considering our growing debt servicing obligations?
It involves, one is that the Constitution puts debt in the exclusive legislative list. So it's the federal government that is the big player in debt management. Number two, there are two major laws that guide debt. One is the DMO Act 2003, 5, and then the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. The DMO deals with collecting the debts, publishing them, and then going to markets to issue bonds and yields and all the stuff, treasury bills. But the law itself, 2007, is the fiscal responsibility.
All right, we lost him there. We'll take him right back. Let's take a quick short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Business Point. We sincerely apologize for the break in transmission. It was due to technical hitch. We're actually discussing with Professor Ken Ife, a development economist and president, Institute of Professional Economics and Policy Management. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir, Professor. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back. All right, we've been speaking with Professor Ken Ife. All right, sir, Prof. With Nigerian external debt now at $45.9 billion, largely owed to multilateral lenders like World Bank and IMF, how sustainable is our current debt profile, especially considering our growing debt servicing obligations?
Right. When you say sustainable, there is a basis for comparison. Now, there are two laws that govern borrowing. One is the DMO Act 2005, and then there's the Debt Management, that's the Debt Management Act. Then there is the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 that actually governs the entire process of borrowing money, what you are borrowing it for, how it's going to be retired, and all the physical tests that remain. And the ratios, for example, the only ratio that was put in there was the fiscal deficit to GDP, which is 3%, and they moved to 4%. But all the other ratios like debt to GDP, revenue to debt service to revenue, all of those ones were not set. The president, the law says within 6 months of passing it, the Minister of Finance should go and advise the president in consultation with the National Assembly to set all these ratios for federal government, state government, and local government. It has not been set. That's why the argument is going on, which one is sustainable, which one is not, because the basis have not yet been set in the law. Now, coming to it, so what we now have are rules of thumbs, best practices. Now, standard best practice is about 40% debt to GDP ratio. The World Bank says that the economy of the type of Nigeria can actually go as high as 50% or whatever. But that is still the contending ones. But now, in terms of our debt, our GDP as just before the rebasing would have shown this debt to be over 50%. But now that there was a rebasing, our new GDP came down to about 243 billion. So the nearly 100 billion altogether total debt is still less than is about 40%. So that on the face of it seems okay, but it is not okay because GDP does not pay your debt. GDP does not put food on anybody's table.
That's right.
So what is consequential is the revenue, debt service to revenue. Now, the debt service to revenue is in crisis. Now, sometimes it goes to up to 100%, 95%, but then the government is committed to bringing it down to 68%. Now, it came down towards that, but now, because the new borrowing is going up again. It's going to go up again to over 80, heading to 90. So that is where the trouble lies, because when you take away all your money, income, to use it to service, it now means that you are borrowing to pay salaries. The law doesn't allow that. If you say that, okay, your 100% is now used to pay salaries and all that, it means you are borrowing to pay debt. So which is also unsatisfactory, because you cannot be borrowing money to pay debt. And then when you look at the type of money you are borrowing, it's no longer what you are supposed by law to borrow. Because if you go and take euro bond at 7%, at 10%, euro bond dollar euro bond at 10%, to use it to service long-term debts that are around 2-3%, then it means you are heading for crisis. But anyway, so that is the situation around our debt. But it is a very careful thing that we need to work with, because what makes it a problem is this. The law, 2007 law, fiscal responsibility law, FRA, says you can only borrow for capital expenditure and for human resource development. Then we know what human resource development is health, education, and employment and self-employment. Then capital borrowing is infrastructure and also productive activity, productive capital investment that could repay itself. Now, the two things the law says in addition is you have to borrow long term. So it looks at 20, 30, 10 to 30 year borrowing, and then it has to be on concessionary rates. The rates need to be around under 3% or so. So this is what the law says. But the critical one, the fourth one, the law says there must be a cost-benefit analysis. Now, that is where we're having issues, because there isn't enough transparency on the cost-benefit analysis, if any, is actually being done. And why it is so important is because the law, in the contemplation of the law, it expects you, if you want to build infrastructure, and it is, then it needs to be, you need to have a discussion around the economic corridors. Is this infrastructure, roads, rails, power, are they going to pass through urban centers? Will they pass through industrial corridor, economic corridor, residential corridor, so that there will be usage of this infrastructure, and this infrastructure is capable of maintaining itself. So if you call in a PPP, yes, they can maintain it because they can see traffic. You understand? Yes. And when you don't have that, it means you are borrowing money that you will never be able to repay. That is what the law says. So it is the issue that we are having is inadequate transparency on meeting the terms of this law. And there are other aspects of that law. For example, the law says the law warns every development institution lending money to Nigeria that if you lend money outside this legal framework, it's unlawful. That lending is unlawful. The law says that. And the challenge we have with the law is that we don't have enforcement procedures that are robust. We don't have penalties for infringement of the law. So that is where the issues are around our external borrowing. But there's an amendment in the law, in the Act, amendment in the House that has gone through two-threaded reading, wanting to put specific penalties and then specific infringements and specific rapid administration of the justice. But they are not passing the net. They haven't passed them. So this is where we are as a country. It's not a very nice place to be.
All right, but Prof, on the foreign exchange impact, the report attributes part of the debt increase to depreciation of Naira. How big of a role does our exchange rate instability play an inflating cost of Nigeria external obligations?
Well, everybody knows that it didn't start with this administration. We borrowed money, a lot of money, and then we printed money. So the printing of that money caused a lot of inflation, 33 trillion naira. And then now it's in the system there. So they are trying to mop them up, and it created a lot of inflationary pressure. You know, when you go and print money that is not backed by anything, it's not backed by increased productivity, then you're actually creating inflation. So that inflation leads to the devaluation of our currency. There are other issues around the currency because currency is money, and the pricing of the currency is a matter of resolving supply and demand of dollar. So we're not having enough dollar to meet our requests, and we are having excessive demand for dollar. So you have to have demand management on one hand, and then you have to increase supply of dollar. And there's so many things around the supply, from crude oil, from gas, from this, all of this, and then savings. Savings helps you a lot. And then of course the increased debt that you are taking requires you to service the debt. So there is you don't blame currency alone. When you are borrowing, there is going to be a debt service. So that debt service has to come in, and then it increases the chances that the currency could be devalued if you're not having enough dollar in the system to pay for those debts that are denominated in dollars. You will be forced to devalue your currency.
As it is now, China remains Nigeria's biggest bilateral creditor at $5.16 billion. Do you believe growing our dependency on Chinese loan poses any geopolitical or economic risk?
No, not at all. I think the reverse is the case. China does not give you governance conditions when you are borrowing from them. That's number one. Okay. And it's the governance conditions that make you behave and misbehave and do all kinds of things, tinkering with exchange rate, tinkering with that, and because the people that lend you the money, IMF and what, and they want you to do this, do that. So that's one. The secondly, the China loan is a tied loan. The bilateral is and that's where we should be going. It's a tied loan, and then just like Sukuk is project bond, tied to projects. But the ones that we get from World Bank and they give it. Some of them are budget support, government spends as they like. They don't, and then some of them are conditional cash transfer to share to people. The law doesn't support that. That FRA 2000 does not support borrowing money to share. It doesn't. If you earn your IGR, you can do anything you like with it. But the law does not allow that. But then that's just what's going on. You cannot borrow money from China and then go and share it. It's not possible because China will tie the loan to a project and then make sure that their people will do the work. And then, so that's what happens. So that is the way to go, to be able to generate revenue, see the project with your eyes. Some of these projects are never seen from history.
All right, sir, before I let you go, to wrap it up, if we continue on this trajectory, where do you think Nigerian debt stock will be in the next 3 to 5 years, and what will be the economic implication for ordinary citizens?
Well, even this money you want, $21.5 billion, 15 billion yen, 2.198 billion euro. If these monies are applied to economic projects that are capable of repaying the money, we haven't got a problem. You just go and borrow more. We haven't got a problem. But if these monies are going to go to the other side of the balance sheet, to the expenditure side of the balance sheet, where you are appropriating the money to non-economic infrastructure, and then you are not, so you are using it for other purposes like recurrent expenditure and sharing, then it's going to aggravate our financial situation and then put us to fiscal stress. That is what it is. And we have law, second best law in the world on fiscal responsibility, following Brazil. But we're not applying the law of food. So the answer to your question is that unless these things are done, as I have mentioned, and we are following the law, then we will be running into troubled waters. And it will affect everyone. And then let me tell you something. The reason why you are having problem with budget performance is because debt service is first line charge. So when you raise your money, they go immediately. Salaries will come. If you don't pay, they will be on the street. You pay salaries, you pay pension, then you defense. When you have all these defense challenges, security, you have to support defense. So in the end of the day, by the end of the year, you have paid all your recurrent expenditure and all the debts and all of that. You have not spent on capital. So that's why you keep on pushing the budget to the following year, to March, from March to June, from June to December, trying to spend the capital that you have over bloated budget for. Because you have bloated your budget, you borrowed more money, and then you are now spending the revenue that comes in on the priority items and never get enough money to do the capital component. So we have to do realistic budgeting. Our budget is not realistic. You are using $75 benchmark and 2 million liter crude production per day barrel. When you are 1.8, well, thank God we've got to that 1.8, but they will never anywhere near $75. It's about 65 to 67, 68. Will never, and you don't do that. That is not prudence. You have to budget to be below the market price of crude, so that the balance will go to excess crude account, and from there will be accretion to reserves. This is over budgeting, and it's deliberate because it is intended not to fund capital projects. Because capital project is the very last in the ladder. I
want to say a very big thank you, Professor Ken Ife, a development economist and president, Institute of Professional Economists and Policy Management. Thank you for the insightful conversation on Nigerian rising debt. We really appreciate your fruitful deliberation on the topic. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this is where we draw the curtain on Business Point today. Join me again tomorrow on Global Television, channel 365 on DSTV and 276 on Star Times. To stay connected, kindly follow us on all our social media platforms as Global TV NG. Till I come your way again, I am Kike Lomo Okeri. I celebrate you all.